Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising someday. If that's the sort of thing you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. This is a short week because I got back from Halifax and had to sort out a few things, but what I really want to get done is get the windshield wipers sorted, because I've had sort of a temporary wiper on the starboard side over the summer, but if I'm going to be cruising up to the gorge regularly to get some stuff done up there, I need good wipers, and well, I sort of got caught out last time. Pretty straightforward installing wipers. Not as straightforward as you might think. Alright then, so one of the first things I have to do is tidy up the old hole. As I mentioned, the installation I did last summer was a bit of a hack. And the first step to doing that is drying out this old hole, because I'm going to fill it with epoxy and then re-drill it properly. So to get it dry, especially on this very fortunate dry day, I'm going to just use a heat gun, blasting air out of it while I twiddle my thumbs or have coffee or something. Alright, so we're going to put some epoxy plus filler in this hole. The filler I'm going to use is 403 because it's the first thing that I could grab. It's a very ragged hole. It doesn't have to be terribly structural. I basically just wanted to seal it so that moisture doesn't get around, and the hole that I drilled through the epoxy later on for the spindle of the windshield wiper motor is secure and centered. This pump isn't very happy. Okay, all right, start to mix, and in a minute we'll throw in a little 403, probably more than a little. As usual, I'm doing this in my decent clothes. I won't say good clothes because I don't really have any good clothes, but yeah, I'm gonna say that, and I don't know what food we compare that with. It's not exactly peanut butter, but it's the nature of the 403 that it doesn't even really mix up the same way as other fillers, but this is going to be just fine. All right then, so we'll put a little masking tape on here to keep it from coming and pouring into the inside of the boat. To limit the amount of epoxy that doesn't go where I want it, I'm going to put my first dam piece on, which is basically going to encourage epoxy to stay in the hole, which will be also the beginning of me sealing it up afterwards, because this isn't all that thick. Make sure there's no air pockets. Okay, then simply pack it in with the tape. It'll scooch out here and there and everywhere. All right, off camera I'll come back and wipe the bulk of that off of there so it's a little tidier, but this is ready to go. Alright, so here I have the two wiper motors, which were kindly gifted to me on the Amazon wish list, and I'm so grateful for that. I've marked them starboard and port because I've lost track, because I already installed the starboard one at least briefly this summer, and I've lost track if I've adjusted it. Now the adjustment is quite interesting. We're going to get into that in a minute, and it's all detailed on this documentation sheet. And that has to do with the total angle that they can sweep, because they're adjustable for that. It's to do with which side they park on, which is important for that. And furthermore, there's wiring to be discussed, because these wipers are really nice because they're self-parking and they're 2-speed. So that requires quite a few more wires. Again, we'll get into all that. Okay, so the classic setup for wiper motors on a motor cruiser, at least everyone I've seen just about, is at the top of the windshield like this. And you can see I've just inserted in the hole that the previous wiper was in. Top mounted wipers. Yes, it's traditional. And to be fair, I believe there's a certain aesthetic, a kind of working boat. It's not a car, it's a boat. The wipers are at the top. Why? One of the main reasons I'll say why is because it actually doesn't shed water all that well. Okay, so now you know why I want to put the wipers at the bottom, and I'm okay with that aesthetic, no problem. But there's two major considerations when you set up wipers, whether the wipers will be swung from the top or the bottom, dealt with. The other is whether or not you're going to use straight arms, which we're used to on most cars, or pantograph arms. What that does, and I'm sure you've all seen it, it uses two arms, one which is attached directly to the wiper, and one is attached to a pivot point right beside it, so that when the two arms move, it it's a parallelogram, and the wiper blade itself actually stays vertical or horizontal, or at least at the same angle through its whole sweep. You've all seen that, pretty common on construction equipment, stuff like that, and some boats. Now, I've done all the geometry and assessed whether or not I wanted to do a pantograph setup on this boat, which I did because I sort of like the aesthetic. Again, Peter. But there's absolutely no reason to do it, especially on windshields that are wider than they are tall. And I did it all in AutoCAD, so let's jump to that and have a look at why.
Okay, so here we go. On the left, you can see the pantograph wiper and the area it would sweep. And on the right, the single arm wiper and the area it would sweep. Now you can see at first glance that the geometry just doesn't work for the shape of the window shown in the blue outline there. And so it gets even worse when you calculate the area shown here in red. And in fact, there's only 3.2 square feet swept with the pantograph and just shy of 4 square feet swept with the single arm wiper. So you can see it makes sense to stick with the single arm wiper.
Okay, we're settled. I hope you're in agreement. Wipers will be at the bottom and non-pantograph. And I'm actually very happy with that, and I have kind of an ace up my sleeve in that I've already set up the starboard motor for that and ran it like that all summer, and I'm really pleased with the way that worked. Okay, now, there's the issue of how many degrees sweep the wiper arm is going to travel through, and that has a lot to do with the point on the windshield, on the frame that you've inserted the shaft, and how long the blades are and how the total geometry of it is going to fit. And I figured that all out too. Let's jump back down and look at the drawing for that.
Okay, zooming in on the single arm layout, you can see the outline of the windshield in blue, which is skewed over because of the angle of the windshield leaning back. So that makes it complicated. You can't actually put the spindle dead center in the bottom because it'll hit the left side before the right. So I had to offset it slightly, and you can see the dimensions that I had for that. Furthermore, you can also see I've calculated the angle as 100 degrees. And by default, I thought I would get away with 110, but we'll find out.
Okay, with that all determined, I should know the angle everything's going to sweep through and the length of the blades. However, there's nothing like actually putting it in place to confirm that. So, because I know I've already set up the starboard motor for the angle of sweep that's required, I'm just going to take the cover off and have a look where I set it. It'll also remind me of how I have to set the left versus right. This motor is already set up for a starboard side motor, which will park on the left or port side. So whatever this is set up for, because I don't know in the instructions whether left means left side of the boat or parks on the, anyway, I think you know where I'm going with this. Let's take this one apart and see how it's set up. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I may not have mentioned the brand of these motors. These are Ungaro. I did quite a bit of research into what at least I thought would be the best ideal wiper motors for the boat, and these came up stellar. So I mean, at least I've only used one for part of a season, but I think they're beautifully made, and if you're looking for them for a wiper motor, look into them. Okay, so I'm gonna need my glasses to figure out what's going on in here, but that little screw there fits in a number of holes on this plate, or fits into a number of holes on the plastic gear down below, and that sets whether or not it parks left or right, or whether or not it's, or not whether or not, but the angle of sweep that it does. And there's a bunch of writing on there to figure that out. So I'm going to cross-reference that with this chart and see how it's currently set up. I'll be fair, this isn't as simple as you might hope. Okay, I figured it out, and I'm a little ashamed to say it was not that easy. So what I've done is I've opened the new motor that hasn't been adjusted yet, and I compared it to the old motor that I've been using, the motor I've already been using, and they're exactly the same. So by fluke, when I first installed it this summer, I didn't need to change anything. I know I looked inside here, I think I just decided that the angle was correct, so it's set for 110 degrees parked left. So all I really need to do, because I know the angle is correct, is leave the angle and only change the parking side, which is relatively straightforward. It's simply taking these screws out and spinning this disc 180 degrees so the arm is on the other side. This has turned out to be relatively easy. That's not the right screwdriver. 180 degrees. There's a lovely little O-ring gasket type thing on here, which is a bit finicky. Okay, so the motors ready. Let's drill some holes. And that's simple, but there's a catch, and I'll tell you why. Now, as you can see, this is raw, nasty old plywood. This is going to be veneered or planked with some thin mahogany at some point. So I need to raise it up, let's say 1/4 inch, which means the hole has to go up roughly 1/4 inch, which is dangerously close to sort of the edge of the structure of the glass and all that. I mean, it's not going to get into the glass, but it's higher than I initially anticipated. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll just go outside, I'll look where the top of the hole was, raise it 1/4 inch, and re-drill it from the outside. Now, you may say, well, that is all awkward and kind of close to all this. Well, yes, but this entire windshield is going to be replaced sometime in the distant future, because it's a mess and needs to be rebuilt, but it's a significant job. But when I do, I will simply raise the glass slightly at the top and the bottom, and there'll be a lot more room at the bottom to reinstall these. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves. There we go, a nice smooth section of epoxy there. Okay, well, I can see the top of the hole used to be there. It's going to be hard up against the molding, which, well, that's what it is. Okay, with some anguish, I've decided I have to do this right, and right is not necessarily the most elegant. Because I'm going to rebuild the windshield, and you can see why that's definitely got to happen, I might as well put the motors in the right place for the geometry of the glass and to make sure I can put my helm inside, which means really high, basically right up against the bottom of the trim, which means I have to cut out a little segment of the trim for the nut to be able to wind down. So what I'm going to do is do that with this hole saw, and I've chucked up an extra long pilot bit in here so that I can start that basically way up high like that and take out a little notch of the bottom. You can see where this is going, and you can see why it's a little ugly. Okay, that's all I need. Take out a nice little segment of this, and we should be in good shape. I like it, I like it. Because my 5/8 drill is such a beast, I'm going to get this hole started with this step drill. I'm actually a late comer to step drills. They're remarkably handy for all kinds of things, especially this. Splendid. You know, I don't feel that bad about that. Clean this all up a little bit, get some oil on here. Yeah, it's okay. And that makes me happy. Beauty. Okay, with the motors fitting in place, I have my comfortable 1/4 inch at the bottom. I'm very happy. What I need to do now, though, and I only sort of did it the last time I installed it, is trim out some of this interior trim. A little notch here, a little notch here. I don't feel too bad about that, and we'll get that flush, because I need this to go all the way flush with the inside of the actual frame to get enough length of the shaft, which I predetermined for the thickness of the frame, not the thickness of the frame plus all this trim. I think you know where I'm going. Trim, trim, trim. If you don't have one of these switchblade reciprocating saw holders, they are super, super handy. This one's actually by Milwaukee. That's a bit aggressive for what, let's find a finer blade. Okay, well, to be fair, that actually wasn't as miserable as I suspected it might have been. And next, a little hole to run the wires down. Okay, with the hole drilled for the wire, I just twist all the wires together, send them down the hole. There we go. And up in place, ready to have the nut put on the outside. Let's do the other side. The same here, run the wire down the hole, and the motor is in place. Well, this is pretty straightforward. There is a gasket and a washer, a cupped washer thing to hold that gasket, and a nut to hold this all on. But in addition to that, I'm going to put a little bit of my favorite butyl tape, just enough to wrap around the shaft. Gasket and washer, we'll go over that. and the nut over that. This is all stainless steel and really nice stuff. And I'm going to send this home with a 3/4 socket. That beauty will do a great job of filling the end of the hole where the shaft is coming out. That'll do. That's ready to go. That's all we want right there. Oh, I love seeing the butyl just squirt out. Okay, this is going great. All right, folks. Well, I procured wiper blades, and these are actually 19-inch ones when I wanted 18, but I don't know if I've mentioned yet that these arms are actually adjustable from whatever to whatever. Quite a large variation there. So if that turns out to be a problem, hopefully I'm okay. These are actually quite nicely made also, that they have a large casting here where they go onto the spindle, and it's tightened up with a Allen key clamp. Actually, they're really, really quite nice. Made by the same company as the motors. Okay, so let's just put these blades on and get them on the... I never know how to open these things. Good enough. Let's hope this is idiot-proof. I think it is. Around the corner and back on. What more could you ask for? Beauty. Let's go outside and put them on. Okay, so my plan here is to set the initial length to fit from the spindle, in other words the shaft, to just clear the top of the windshield, and I've done that already by adjusting this clamp. So that sits right there, leaving me about 3/4 of an inch there. I may be able to extend it later, but then if my math is correct, this will also, if I get this back off of here, there we go, it'll also just clear here by roughly the same amount. So I'm going to start with that right there, and we'll see how well that works. And see if 110 degrees drops it right there. So I'll tighten this up at least a little bit for now. All right, and I'll show you how this is adjusted. There's just a little lever on here, which I'm just going to pop out with this screwdriver. And now this is adjustable. So I'll just temporarily place this on the bottom, slide that up till it's about 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch from the top, and lock it in again. Excellent. So now I've got the length right. I'll set it up so it just clears. These are nice arms. Holy mackerel, they're nice. So it's right there. Very nice. Okay, and I'll tighten this one up. Now all there is to do is actually turn them on and see if they sweep the right amount. Before I do that, I actually don't like to run wipers dry on glass, especially when they're dirty like this is. So I'll put a little soapy water on here so make sure it doesn't scratch the glass with the abrasiveness of all the junk that's on here. Okay, folks, let's see how it clears. No good. They weren't in park. They're parked on the... Oh, yeah. Left, right, left. Well, all right, folks. Yeah, I kind of messed that up. I don't know how I assumed. Anyway, there's no excuses. The park is on the wrong side as far as I can tell. So I've gone out. I've lifted the wipers off the windscreen. I'm going to reset them to park. Make sure to find out where they actually are parking now, which I assume is going to be on the outside of the windshields. And take the gear heads all up. Honestly, I could just swap the two motors. I don't know what's easier. Let me think about it for a minute. Okay, fresh soapy water on. Let's see which way they go. Well, I can tell right now 110 degrees is too much. Yes, indeed. And to confirm, park is the wrong way. Yep. Okay, that's not the end of the world. That actually worked out pretty well, because what I can do, I have to take the boxes off to swap them, obviously, but it hardly matters now because I'm going to have to take the gearbox. There's a bit to do. There's a little light left. Let's get to it. Okay, so I think I've reconfigured these for the proper alignment. What I've done before I reinstall them, I've put my little blue tags back on again in the orientation that I want for the starboard and the port motors. In other words, they go into the windshield like that, and that should be towards the center post. But better yet, I'm going to test them with some power right here on the spot. So white is ground, and on this little wire black is ground, and to run is green. Run slow is green anyway. So let's run these for a bit, see if it works. Yeah, it's very nice, very nice. So let's stop them in the non-park position. So now all I have to do is put the park wire on, which is red, and hopefully it'll swing back to right over there. Yes! Let's see how we do over this side. Oh, I am so pleased. Now I've also set them up to park on the right side and 100-degree sweep. Cheers. All right, and now I can go put the blades on. Okay, folks, this is it. I believe this is gonna work. Except I wired this one up as fast. Okay, I think I got it. There we go. Now, if I look on the starboard side, it's missing by about 2 inches on this side and almost touching here, so I want to move it one spline towards the center of the boat. And on the port side, it's missing by, in each case, I think I want to move one spline towards the center of the boat. Let's go do that. Okay, folks, I've moved each one towards the center of the boat by one spline. Let's see how they look now. On the left, it misses by about 1.25 inches. On the right, by about 1.25 inches. Oh no, this one's closer to an inch, and on this side, 1.5 inches. You know, at a certain point, it's splitting hairs. What I can do is max out the height. Okay, folks, so I've extended the blades a little bit, and they seem to be sweeping very, very nicely. Parked beautifully, everything is lovely. Okay, I'm gonna call that a success. Now we just need to test it with some serious rain. Okay, folks, well, I have set up a hose outside, and I really just want to show you how this is gonna cascade water better than it does with a top-mounted wiper. And of course, I'm just hoping that that's the case, because I believe it's the case, and it's too late now, isn't it? Let's go outside. It would help if I turned the wipers on. Now from my vantage point, I couldn't actually tell if that was awesome, but it looked awesome. Okay, let's do that all over again on Zephyrus. All right then, let's start the wipers. Oh goodness, I'll tell you, they're noisy. I'm just gonna put a little, make sure I'm not dry. Okay, and that proves, without a doubt, that top mount wipers just let the water cascade down between the wipes, whereas bottom mounted wipers clear the screen much, much better. I'm pleased. I'm really pleased. All right, folks, well, that pretty much sums up the wiper install. I'm actually really, really pleased, even though it took a couple iterations. That's the fun of it. It wouldn't be fun if it was easy, would it? Worked out really well. I love it. I'm actually very, very pleased. I do have to tidy up the wiring because I need some multi-core wire. Right now the wiring is a bit of a dog's breakfast, and I need a 2-position switch, off, on. Ones that match the switches I already have are a little bit hard to find. So I can have off, slow, fast, and then the park is automatic. Anyway, very pleased. Cool. Well, hello there, and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. And we're up on the bridge deck because today was a beautiful sunny day. We only have about 4 minutes of that beautiful sun left, so let's jump right into it. The Beer of the Week this week is from Four Winds. It's a Nectarus it's called, and it's a dry hopped sour. And I'm not generally terribly crazy about sours, but I'm curious to see what this tastes like. And I can tell you, it's been a long day, so I'm looking forward to this. All right, see if I can pour it half decently here. Okay, here we go. Pouring very, very light. I'm managing the head relatively well. I'm going to say this is an okay pour into my new favorite glass. I don't know why I love this glass so much. Kind of trashed it at the end. Okay, what a week. It's been lovely to be back. It's been mostly rainy, but today was such a joy and I got a lot done. Cheers. Nectarous. That's sour. It's really sour. I think I'm going to have to learn to love sour beers because there are so many now. And it's, in fact, it's very pleasant to drink, no doubt about it. Okay, let's get straight to work here because we have a fair amount to get through. Last week's winner of a Travels With Geordie t-shirt is SomFX, S-O-M-E-F-X. You know who you are. Reach out to me and make sure you get a hold of me, and I'll make sure you get your Travels With Geordie t-shirt. Cheers. Excellent. Now, off the Amazon wish list. What are you? Banner couple of weeks. Thank you all so much. These are, believe it or not, aprons. I haven't even opened them out yet, but they're aprons, black aprons. Now you say, Peter, you don't look like an apron guy. Well, I'm not, and I never have been. But you know what? I do a fair amount of cooking, do the dishes now and then, this and that. I really want an apron, or a couple of aprons for certain kinds of work. One will probably be a clean one for like cooking and things like that, and one will be more of a work apron rather than full coveralls or stuff like that. It's an experiment. They're black, which is my color, and so I'm really excited about that. And they came from Daedrius. I'm hoping I pronounce your name correctly, Daedrius, and thank you ever so much for those. Cheers. You're gonna see me in an apron next week, I'm sure. Two more really cool gifts. This is a tiny little dedicated Bluetooth receiver. Basically, it has an audio out jack on it, and it's a dedicated standalone Bluetooth receiver. Well, why would you want that, Peter? Well, because I like tunes. I listen to tunes all day long, mostly Irish traditional stuff like that, blues. But I don't want one of those Bluetooth speakers, those little cylinders. It just isn't my generation. Plus, I like stereo. Don't kids today understand stereo? Anyway, so I'm going to connect this up with a sound system that I'm going to build into the boat, which is basically a car stereo sound system without the head unit, just an amplifier and some speakers. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that is thanks to Dave Lee. Thank you ever so much, Dave, for that. That's really fantastic. And lastly, and my gosh, super handy, is a spare battery and charger for the GoPro, because you're watching on the GoPro right now and I barely have enough charge on it to shoot this clip. So thank you ever so much to oh yeah, Carl and Sarah Little, who have been very generous in the past. Thanks so much for the charger and extra battery. That's really helpful. All right then, well, that's going on, and we still have the light, just barely. Cheers to you all. I'm rushing trying to get in under the sun. All you need now is a word of the week. I can slow down now because it hardly matters. And that word is clear. Clear for clear skies, clear for clear view through the windshield, clear for, I've never used it before, so clear or clearly. Anyway, use the word clear or clearly in a comment down below, and I'll pick it random over the next week or so worth of comments. And if I pick you, you win a Travels With Geordie t-shirt. See you next week. And there goes the sun.